Today is a fairly light day. We're heading to Metz after a couple of 80-plus days. We're doing a 60. It's sunny, a little cold. We'll probably end up stripping in about half an hour or so.
It's Sunday morning, so we've seen very little traffic. Very little. That's the second car of the day. We've already done.
We are headed to a big old city, some 2,500 years of history, in fact. Metz is the capital of the Lorraine region. Today is Sunday, and there is very little in the way of traffic as we negotiate our way through rich agricultural land. We get the constant olfactory reminder that cows rule this part of the world. It's day 11, which means we are theoretically halfway to our destination, London, England. As we move towards Belgium and the Netherlands, we see more and more evidence of wind energy.
Way down there, down there. Yeah.
Now the dominant alternative energy in Europe. Wind turbines are everywhere we look on the horizon.
Oh no, the deafening sound of the wind turbines. Wait a minute, why am I whispering? I think the crunching of the gravel under Mike's tires is louder than the wind turbines. But you know, they'll ruin our lives.
We are often surrounded by the end-of-season sunflower plants. The oil of sunflower seeds is a huge crop in this part of the world. It's kind of a sad display with the beautiful sunflowers turning black and bowing their heavy flowers instead of following the sun. There are uphills too, but at this point in our ride, we can mostly negotiate those without resorting to walking our bikes. Mostly. It's less than 5 hours, and we are closing in on our next warm showers host. Jeff is a really neat man, an American from the West Coast who wanted to learn French. Of course, there's no better way than full immersion, so Jeff moved to France. Metz, in fact, a few years ago. He found a lovely apartment on the 5th floor and continues to do his business from here. He wasn't so keen to practice his French on us, so we ate and laughed and talked, riding and living, all in English.
Oh yeah.
His apartment building was at least 100 years old, right across the street from the old train station water tower complex.
I'm Mike, Jeff. Hi.
Nice to meet you. This is, it sometimes works and sometimes doesn't, but I can't hear. I live on the 5th floor. There is no elevator. That's correct. But I have...
He stored his bike in the basement, in what seemed to be an ancient jail cell.
So all we need to do is bring...
You had to go through the back of the first floor kitchen to get through to it. The bikes were surely safe from all but the smell of a busy kitchen.
We're now officially leaving Metz on our way towards where are we going?
Luxembourg.
We're going towards Luxembourg, and this is some basilica in Metz of some repute.
St. Stephen's Cathedral.
Another St. Stephen. Okay, St. Stephen.
Stefan.
Wow, that's a beautiful piece of architecture. Anyway, it's a gray day. We don't think it's going to be a bad day in any way. We're moving on.
So this is day 12. And day 12 brought with it a particular problem I didn't realize until after the fact. We only recorded half of the tour on our Komoot software. But Komoot, I should take you behind the curtain and show you how it actually works. A is more or less where we started. Started recording. I can show you that Jeff lived in this building right here on the 5th floor. There's the train tracks. There's that water tower. So here we go. We take off down the street. and beautiful streets, actually. Metz is a gorgeous old town. This is the kind of streetscape we were looking at as we were traveling. Beautiful. It's kind of a wet day, though, off and on wet. So we go down this street, we take a right and a left on the Rue de Paris, and then a right again, then a left, and here's that gorgeous St. Stephen's Church, and more or less where I recorded the introduction right here.
Et voilà mon ami David. Allez-y.
Bonjour David.
Go down, and this is a side view of St. Stephen's. St. Stephen's, by the way, not only a gorgeous cathedral, but it has the most stained glass of any church in Europe, which is pretty impressive. So then we cross la Moselle, and the Moselle River is one of the big rivers, Bras-Mort, Aval de la Moselle. There's two rivers right here, so we cross over the Moselle for the first time, and there's some people wondering what the heck we're doing on the sidewalk, but sometimes you have to do what you have to do. So then we cross back, we go here. Now, this kind of turn here, you would never in a million years be able to find that on an old school map. And we often wonder to ourselves what we would do without software like Komoot to show us the way. So here we go, going along, make a right here, and this is what we look at here. A typical street. We're getting closer to the suburbs and more typical cityscape. But we're still in town. We haven't left town yet. Here's a big bridge we crossed. There was a nice lane for bikes, which is not always the case in North America. Another bridge to cross. This is all Moselle here. This is the Canal Moselle. Now we're paralleling some train tracks to get out of town. There was a bike path along here. But you can see, as we're traveling along the Moselle, there's many, many, many ways we could have gone, and a map would have confused you no end. But it's great when you've got a phone right in front of your face with the software on it, more or less telling you where to go. You don't have to go there. Sometimes we took alternate paths, but we more or less followed the map. Here's David ahead of me because he was the map leader that day, and I was following him. But that's what we're looking at when we follow the map. There's these round, I assume they're grain silos. So here we go, up here, down here. All the way along, you can see that, and then all of a sudden you make a turn, you go this way, on Chemin de Tuileries, this way, to make it back that way. You come along this way, and now we're more or less an open country. Very agricultural in this part of, we're still in France, very, very agricultural. So as we're moseying along the Moselle, we again have to cross the river. That's 6 crosses if you're counting so far. Back and forth, back and forth. A little confusion right here. We weren't too sure exactly what to do. That's what confusion on a Komoot map looks like right there. So this ended up being about an 85K day as we traveled along. Very picturesque, but not so nice when you're... And sometimes people put their own photos in here, which is kind of neat. You can see other people's pictures that have taken this exact same track as us. And I would imagine the photos we took become part of other people's experience if they want to see ahead of time what they're going to be seeing. So here, look, this is, and if you pull back, you get the sense of, whoa, there's a lot of water around here. And I can remember this particular section. But if you didn't have this kind of software, you would not know what to do with this, because these are all paths. It's almost like a maze. But our trusty Komoot map took us on the right path all the way along. So here we go. There's all these other photos of other people. So this is what I was told was this particular canal, the Moselle Canal, very much a working canal. We're just
heading out of France and heading into Luxembourg. David's putting on his wet gear because he's tired of getting the drizzle. It's adding up to a soaker. So this is what everyone knows as a working river, which basically means every manner of industry uses it as cargo ships and whatnot coming down the river. And it looks like tonight we get to stay with somebody in Luxembourg City itself. So maybe we'll have some time to explore it. And there's some history right here. A lot of history along the canal, just to explain to us what we were actually riding on, and why the bike path was there and who it was named after. Charles le Téméraire, Charles the Timid. Actually, in English, it's Charles the Brave, I think, which is kind of strange. But look at all the water. Very confusing unless you know where to go. So here we are. Back and forth, so going a little tiny stretch of land between the two waterways. But you couldn't do it any other way. There was no other way for you to get through, to navigate this, if you pardon my expression. Water skiing. Okay. We didn't see any water skiers, but I assume that it gets done on this stretch of the river. It's Route de la Metz. So here again, if you didn't have your software, you would not know that this is your path towards Luxembourg. And that is exactly where the end of my day theoretically took place. But no, if you look back, we ended up on this side of Luxembourg, up here. And we'll have photos of that, which I'll show you probably in day 13. But this, what you're looking at, is what we looked at as we rode our route for day 12. Hi, this is day 13 in our quest to make it to London on time. And you were mentioning impressive garages for bikes.
Bike garages of Europe, we have known.
Yes, this is a nice bike garage. No room for cars, a nice little workshop for fixing up bikes. Anyway, we're minutes from takeoff. Our normal takeoff time is about 9:30. It is exactly 9:30. So we are leaving within minutes. Take the obligatory see you later shot, and off we go. This is under the bridge.
Just as we were leaving, our outstanding Warm Showers host said, it's not right. You haven't seen my beautiful city. He was right. Luxembourg City is stylish, and if you're a fan of well-built everything like I am, this place is it. David and me had to take in the beauty as we moved through it. That's the problem being on a schedule. Next time, we'll give ourselves a little more time. Our host was such a super host that he had us and a tourer from France, Marine, on the same night. What a great guy, and obviously a big fan of cycling. And here we go, stumbling upon another incredible lunch spot.
So we're spoiling ourselves at a fancy brasserie today for lunch. We're going to do everything but drink. But maybe moules frites is going to be my thing today.
Now, I'll mention a few times today build quality in this part of the world. How about the bike paths? They're made of concrete and perfectly graded for runoff. Imagine that. Makes you realize that where you ride could be this way too, but usually isn't. I know sometimes talking about infrastructure and all that kind of stuff is pretty boring, and it drove David kind of crazy with the amount of times I stopped to admire a house or a bridge or some municipal structure, just because they really seem to pay attention to this stuff in Luxembourg and Belgium. So many other places we rode through and will ride through, no countries mentioned, a house is nothing more than a place to live. Here it seems different, and not necessarily, I'm not talking about homes for the wealthy. We all have seen the 5,000 square foot starter castles where we live. But more attention to detail, more attention to quality materials with a focus on design at every level. Anyway, it's my own little thing, and Belgium and Luxembourg kind of spoke to it directly. Speaking of Luxembourg, it's a tiny little place. It's surrounded by Belgian national parks. It's smaller than Rhode Island with less than 1 million people. Luxembourg and Belgium are 10 out of 10 for cyclists. as we continue to mostly follow the Eurovelo Trail number 5 northwards.
60K into the ride. Checking that everything's solid before we go down this hill.
900 meters of elevation today over our 90K ride. By this point, our daily averages are about 15 to 18 kilometers per hour, and no matter what we do, we don't seem to go any faster. It's hard to go much faster with the stops and the gear we are hauling with us, but it's the rhythm we have and we're going with it. Our particular challenge today was a place to stay. We knew we were heading to Bastogne in Belgium, but this time we struck out looking for our next warm showers host. So maybe a hotel, a motel, or using our camping gear? We are strangely not too concerned about it as we roll through the countryside. We've been fortunate, and I think we continue to believe our luck has not run out. I mean, when you're in Europe, history is everywhere, but we weren't quite prepared for how deep history plays a part in this part of Europe. We are literally traveling through time, and the bikeways we ride today tell us in every way possible that centuries of humanity, with as many wars and plagues and every manner of development, has already shaped the place. This year is particular, though, as it is the 80th anniversary of the Battle of the Bulge. You probably have seen the movie Band of Brothers and many movies of that ilk. Well, they brought this important story to the screen. When planning our ride in Komoot, most of the time we aim for the train station in each city as a reference point. Today's no different. Once in Bastogne, we find the station and we searched around virtually and literally until we found a place that wasn't too full of guests here to commemorate what came before. David and I, we were aware that the 80th anniversary was an all-encompassing thing for this city, but we were just passing through.
So it had to happen. First flat of the ride happens in Bastogne in Belgium. We've been lucky so far. Little tiny piece of glass. Probably picked up on the very busy restaurant square where many a beer bottle has been broken over the years, I'm sure. But the bike's been very good so far. This town is steeped in history. Bastogne in Belgium. The Band of Brothers movie was built around the Americans' participation in the war, Second World War. And this town pretty much, of 16,000 or so, pretty much lives off of the history. And you can see it all around. The memorabilia is incredible.
It's the 80th anniversary of the Battle of the Bulge, as I mentioned. This and other encounters are being honored all around us as we leave. We make several stops to read and reflect. This is not just a normal day of riding. Eventually, we get back to focusing in on the little things that we still need to take care of. And I mean really little things, like making sure we use all of the gear that we're hauling along with us. Like the fuel we bought and brought, and the kettle, and the cups of tea, and the tea. So, high tea at the highest elevation that day. Check that off. All right, we're back to work. Again, we choose to go without a planned sleeping spot for the night. Winging it because it seems to work well. We are ambitiously headed for Liège in Belgium. There is some elevation to negotiate, but most of the big stuff from here on in is way behind us. We see many campgrounds with a high-end trailer park kind of vibe. Lots and lots of camping too, but we are obviously out of season as the welcome signs seem to have disappeared.
Looks like we've stumbled on a out of season, extremely touristy type place. On our way to Liège, but we're not going to make it to Liège. It's still 55k away, but all around us. Yeah. But David's gone in to talk to the tourist people, explain to them just how desperate we are, and maybe something will come of it.
Bullseye! Something did come of it. A superb B&B at the end of a final hard climb in a very unlikely spot. You'd call this place a labor of love. And I love architecture, and I've done a few renos myself, but this is a completely different level. He has the before pictures to prove it too. Again, we are the only guests. We cash in another of our Lucky Charm tokens.
Rebuilt. Looks like a hog shed or some kind of farm outbuilding that some contractor, Mike, from Amsterdam fell in love with and decided to change his life. A beautiful place. Looks like a windy day, cool day, but for a change, a long, flat day. We are leaving our first day in Belgium. Fantastic B&B we stayed in. Nice breakfast, nice man, Mike. And his place was neat because it's more like agri-tourism more than anything else. But he was in love with it, and we fell in love with it too. It's a great place to be. Today, we're probably going to try and do 90 because it looks like we have a warm showers place to stay at.
So today is follow the rivers all day long. First the Ourthe, then the Meuse, and finally La Maze and all their associated canals and shipways.
So here we are at a place called Le Vieux La Roche with its requisite castle and beautiful roads. And we've been going downhill for about 6K. I'm freezing. But now we're in the sunshine and in this just idyllic little town in Belgium called Le Vieux La Roche. Never heard of it? And life being what it is, we'll probably never be here again.
Belgium, almost like the Netherlands, has prioritized cycling. It is not an afterthought.
Dude. That's bien. There's a lot of whitewater on this. Be quite a river to run. Not too crazy, but significant. We've been in the valley most of the morning, eh? Yeah, this guy doesn't get a lot of sunlight, but he's beautiful. Ah, the train.
And because we have a destination today, a warm showers host is available and waiting for our arrival, which means, of course, they're likely buying food, planning a meal, and there is an implied quid pro quo. You show up at a reasonable time, and you have some social capital in reserve. And what with the language barrier, sometimes it can be challenging. There are 3 official languages in Belgium: Dutch, French, and German, but we found that everyone spoke English, unofficially, of course. The signs were mostly French, but the closer we got to the Netherlands, the more Dutch signs started showing up. Go figure. We stop in Liège for a snack. Again, it's poor form to kind of show up starving. Liège is the cultural capital of the area. It supports 250,000 people along the Meuse River. It's close to the Netherlands border and the city of Maastricht. It's a commercial and industrial hub of Belgium, famous for steel, glass, armaments, and copperworks.
Yeah. Careful.
You can't miss the heavy industry as we cruise through and just past the city towards our hosts in the Netherlands. But even as we negotiate our way through the thickets of Belgian heavy industry, there is always a place and a path for the humble cycle. We are starting to get used to it.
How's it feel?
As good as it usually does, and not all slick either.
Different kind of water.
Yeah. Weird. There's a towel and a hand thing. Let's see.
All right. A daughter who uses the warm showers community, but doesn't have a place for herself yet to host people. So, like a lot of them, she gets her parents to support her in that endeavor. So we're staying in this beautiful little town just outside Maastricht in Belgium, and there's our little hobbit heaven for tonight.
Help each other light on front or back.
Yeah, just told me about his special drink he makes himself with very young chestnuts. And what he says is to find the very best eau de vie, and then just a tiny bit of prunes. Boy, oh boy, what a way to end a beautiful day riding.
Part 4 has us getting to the coast, crossing the channel, and taking a bit of a detour before we make it to London.